The whole world was covered with footage of Putin on a porch, in which a tired, shabby old man openly admitted that he was waging a war of conquest in Ukraine, that he considered the lands of a neighboring state to be his own. They would all slowly gnaw it all off, seize it, and then go on to win it back. They would
return it. Well, that's right. The
last of the state leaders who openly admitted to aggressive actions was Adolf Hitler. And, by the way, in the fourth year of the war, the Austrian artist also looked like a haggard, decrepit old man, although he started the war with Bravo and Zadorno. Until that moment, the states neighboring Russia could still pretend that the aggression of the Muscovites would not touch them. But now the Russian mug has shown without a mask. The effect of the Pale Führer's confession was enhanced by the documents of the former consul of the FRG in St. Petersburg, published recently. In his note, the German diplomat recorded the words of Putin, who in 1994 said in a conversation that Crimea, eastern Ukraine and northern Kazakhstan are originally Russian territory, and the Russians will never come to terms with their loss. Moth was then carrying a suitcase for the mayor of St. Petersburg Sobchak, but it turns out that he was already hatching plans for aggression and began to implement them 20 years later. He annexed Crimea and unleashed a war against Ukraine. Is there any doubt that Kazakhstan is next? No, it is obvious that if the orcs had managed to quickly defeat the Ukrainians, the war would have immediately spread to the Kazakh steppes. Moreover, propaganda has formulated a mythology against Astana exactly like against Kiev. Judge for yourself. Kazakhstan, like Ukraine, was captured before the empire in the 15th century. Kazakhstan also received its current borders as part of the Union. For the Russians, it was also invented by the bald guy from the armored car. Who created it? Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, when he created the Soviet Union. Moscow is also irritated that Astana constantly reminds us of the Holodomor that the Kremlin has inflicted on the Kazakhs. Plus, the Kazakhs have dared to develop their own language, while the Russian chatter is losing influence. There is some languor about northern Kazakhstan, where they are actively getting rid of Russian names and changing them to Kazakh ones, even in Russian cities. And, of course, in Kazakhstan, as in Ukraine, a fat fifth column has been prepared from dreamers of sausages at 220 and outspoken FSB officers. Karaganda is a city. Yes, a resident of Karaganda complains to her interlocutor in a chat roulette that the Kazakhs, like the Ukrainians, have become Nazis.
I work in a store.
Yeah.
He goes to the store, and he sees that I am Russian. They start talking to me at shows. Now Russia will kick Ukraine, and the Kazakhs are cowards. They will go to jail.
The woman was brought to justice for inciting hatred. The geopolitical alignments are also similar. Ukraine was moving away from Moscow to the west, and Kazakhstan is moving away from Moscow to the east, toward China. In order not to let Ukraine go, Putin unleashed a bloodbath. Why does anyone think that he will not do the same with Kazakhstan? It is possible. Moreover, it is not uncommon. Look how Kazakhstan appeared. In fact, at first it was called the Cossack USSR, yes, as part of the RSFSR. That is, there were no Kazakhs at all. Russia can attack Kazakhstan at any moment, without even waiting for the end of the war with Ukraine. Aggression against Astana can be an attempt to encourage the demoralized Russian society, drowning in coffins, with a small victorious war. Well, listen, let's still pay attention to the fact that the next problem is Kazakhstan, because the same, excuse me, Nazi trials can begin there now in Ukraine. We have borders there and there is a lot of Russian territory there, excuse me, Semipalatinsk is there and by the way, the nuclear fuel for our entire Rosatom is also there. If there are reasons, there will be a reason. And Putin voiced his reasons, not being Sobchak's servant, but the president of Russia. In 2020, Putin, in his schizophrenic manner, once again repeated his claims to all his neighbors, including Kazakhstan. The balding geostrategist said that the countries that left the USSR took with them the original Russian territories. There, decisions were made so voluntaristically about the formation of nations. For example, the Uzbeks never existed before the revolution. There was no such ethnic name. They took it, created Uzbeks from several Central Asian peoples. The same thing was created. Well, who are the Azerbaijanis? There is no such nationality as Azerbaijan. Then, in 2020, this statement by Putin caused a real stir in Kazakhstan. The reaction was extremely harsh. A group of retired generals of the Kazakh Special Services sharply responded to the occupiers. Putin was advised not to dream of an empire. The train has left and there is no point in delving into history, because if you look into the past, it becomes obvious that it is Russia that occupies the original Kazakh lands. The generals recalled the golden horde of the Turkic peoples living from the Volga to the Far East. The
Golden Horde was a medieval Turkic state on the lands of Central Eurasia. It was ruled by a dynasty that was started by one of the sons of Genghis Khan, Hochi. The Jochids won a high position among the ruling dynasty of the Mongol Empire. A third of all the trophies obtained in all wars belonged to this family. They also reminded Putin of Orenburg, which was the first capital of Kazakhstan. The Kazakhs demonstrated that they are ready to resist and that no one is waiting for Russians there.
In general, the language patrol in the city of Aktau began to demand service in Kazakh from one of the women. Her answer was no less provocative.
You spit on the ground. I'm walking along, and yours spat at my feet. Not ours. You don't like Russians. What did we do to you? We built you a city, and if it weren't for us, you wouldn't be here. The
most important thing is that Kazakhstan made it clear that two people can play the game of historical justice. The Kazakh state news agency Kazinform once even published a map of Kazakhstan, which includes Omsk and Orenburg, as a precaution. And don't forget about Tumen. Translated from Kazakh, the city's name means lowland. Oops. How did Kazakh toponyms end up in the oil region of Russia? Are these really original Kazakh lands? Tumen is Tumen. These are the southern edges of the Golden Horde. That is, even higher up, above Tumen, there also are territories. Kazakhstan has begun to actively cut ties with the aggressive swamps. Moscow propagandists and outright chauvinists are banned from entering the country. Kazakhs chase Russian ethnic and vatniks through the streets with wet rags. It has become obvious that all those who advocate the Russian world in Kazakhstan are potential collaborators. I will tell you what to do if a communist uprising starts near your house during a party. A war of conquest and restoration of the empire is the ideology of the Putin regime. And all the neighbors have felt it. Azerbaijan even had to whip the orcs on the diplomatic field. And they do not stop in Baku. There they openly troll the pseudo-empire and press on its main sore points. In liberated Karabakh, Azerbaijanis tore down a monument to Ivazovsky, which caused quite an explosion in the swamps. Vatniks consider him a Russian painter, although in fact he is an ethnic Armenian, Ivanez Avajan. And one can understand why Azerbaijan removed a monument to an Armenian after the war with Armenia. But how can Russian chauvinists know this? For them, all Russians are those who lived in the empire. The propagandists from Stas added fuel to the fire. They wrote that the Azerbaijani authorities demolished the monument to Stepana Kurte. And this outraged Baku, because the Azerbaijani name of the city is Kankindi. In response to this, the Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry demanded an apology from the publication, and Baku suggested using historical names for Russian cities. Königsberg instead of Kaliningrad, Renbor instead of Orenburg, Sarisu instead of Volgograd, Solzhenitsyn instead of Grozny, Tehara instead of Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk. Kurgan is not Kurgan, but a mound. Not Saratov, but Saratov. No, Astrakhan, Astrakhan. Not Omsk, but Omby. That is, all these territories, which are approximately 500-600 kilometers from the current territory of Kazakhstan to the north, were primordially Kakh lands. Azerbaijani media quickly picked up the trend and began to name Russian toponyms within the framework of historical justice. Both Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan have begun to prepare to confront the mad gas station. are concluding new economic and military alliances. A plan for military cooperation between Kazakhstan and Britain for the 25th to 26th year was signed in London. Under the new agreement, Kazakh troops will undergo training in Foggy Albion. Another successful multi-move for the crazy Russian Führer.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.